Hi, I'm Joanne Magley, the Community Information Director for Volusia County Government, and this is a special Hurricane Irma edition of Volusia Magazine. We are on location at the Volusia County Emergency Operations Center, and this is the epicenter for all the planning and coordination that goes on before, during, and after a major event such as Hurricane Irma. So on today's program, we have a panel of guests to talk about getting through the storm and then, of course, the aftermath of the cleanup and recovery of the storm. So with us on today's program, we will talk with Jim Judge, the Emergency Management Director for Volusia County Government. We have Deputy Fire Chief Noble Taylor, Jessica Winterwerp, the Director of the county's Coastal Division, and Arden Fontaine, the Activity Project Manager with Public Works. So Jim, let's start with you. Walk us through the preparation for Hurricane Irma before the storm, and then take us through during, and then what we're doing now with recovery.
Well, of course, preparedness is all year round, so planning, training, and exercising for these types of events are something we do routinely throughout the year. But of course, when we're monitoring the tropics and we see something forming out there, we really push out information to our community partners through community information that it's time to really make sure that your plans and your preparedness procedures are in place and ready to go. So, as we continue to monitor the storm and potential impacts to Volusia County, we can convene the Managers Advisory Group to brief senior officials on conditions for Volusia County. We're also participating in a great deal of conference calls, not only within the state of Florida Division of Emergency Management, with the Hurricane Center, with National Weather Service out of Melbourne, and also with our community partners. So there's a great deal of coordination that takes place as the storm approaches. And then, of course, once we are potentially looking at a storm, we will go first to what we call a partial activation, where we bring about half the room in here, about 12 of our 20 emergency support functions, to be able to begin preparations as the storm approaches. Then, of course, we activate our Citizen Information Center lines, which have been up and running now for a while. And then we go to a level 1 activation, meaning that all of the emergency support functions, all of our municipalities and everyone are here in the room to be able to begin those coordination efforts to prepare for the storm, but then also deal with the when the storm is directly over us, and then, of course, into the recovery phase.
So at the height of our activation, we had probably around 300 people here in this building, and you mentioned emergency support functions. Give us a overview of just some of those functions that are here in this room coordinating all that information.
Absolutely. We have critical aspects, we call them emergency support functions. So it could be communications, mass care, hazardous materials, search and rescue, health and medical. So all of these 20 emergency support functions, there's a lead agency responsible, and then under that lead agency are other organizations that support that lead agency. And so it's their job then to deal with those specific aspects of that support function. For instance, law enforcement. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office is responsible for all law enforcement activities, and also to communicate with all the law enforcement agencies about curfews, bridge openings and closings, and really anything to do with that aspect of it. So the coordination for all of those activities take place here in the Emergency Operations Center as the hub for all disaster preparedness, response, and recovery activities.
So people in this room, they're all hunkered down. The storm passes. We're responding as we need to, as we can during the storm. So now the storm is over. What happens then as far as that coordination part?
Absolutely. We want to certainly find out from the cities what are their needs, what are the critical issues, what do the citizens need. So we coordinate all that here and then provide the services. So mass care, working with Red Cross, working with Salvation Army to address some of those needs as well. We, of course, have the power companies here. So, of course, they're great partners with both Duke, FP&L. We work very closely with New Smyrna Utilities, as well as Clay Electric in the northwest part of the county. So, we can walk over anytime we need to, or the cities can, to be able to get that specific information. Maybe there's a nursing home. What are their conditions? When can we expect power to come back on? So that's the type of coordination that we can handle with the power companies. So, we bring everybody in. I believe there were close to 340 people in this building at the height of the storm. And of course, here in the Emergency Operations Center, we also have the Consolidated Communications Center. So they handle all fire, EMS, and law enforcement communications. So they're, partners here in the building with us. And also we're able to maintain communication on what's the call volume, what kind of calls are they going to, and then also are there accidents that are happening that we can then address and put additional messaging out on preparedness and safety information to the public on things that we would like them to do or sometimes not to do.
So public safety is really the main emphasis here before, during, and after the storm. And Chief Taylor, this one's for you, because usually after we have the event is when a lot of the safety concerns come into play. Unfortunately, we've already heard of a couple of deaths associated with the storm. One was an electrocution and another was carbon monoxide poisoning. So talk about safety after. You can't stress it enough of what people need to do after the storm passes.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And so a lot of times after the storm clears, especially in this region of the state, we have limbs that are down, trees that are down, power lines that are everywhere, and people begin to move out. They want to clear their property, they want to get limbs off of their house and that kind of thing. And many times there can be electric lines, power lines that are intertwined with that debris and limbs, and so we urge them to use extreme caution, give it plenty of time, and be patient for the electric company to get there, and they'll get that on as soon as they can. And then usually just shortly after that, people begin to crank up their generators. Some of those are fixed and they're on a transfer switch, and some of those are portable. The portable ones tend to be the problem. People choose to run them too close to the house or run them in the garage. And if you're going to run the generator, preferably it needs to be 25 to 50 feet from the house. But the first thing they need to do is read that owner's manual that came with the generator and follow every safety precaution instruction that's in there. And never, ever, in any circumstance, do they need to run a generator in the house, and that includes running it in the garage. Right. Many people think that they can leave the door cracked or partially up, and that's insufficient for the ventilation of that unit, and it will fill up any house very quickly with carbon monoxide. Just in the last few hours, the fire department here, we have responded to a home that had a built-in burglar, fire, and carbon monoxide alarm system, and it notified its central station just like it's supposed to do. And when our firefighters got to the front door, outside the occupancy, it was in excess of 50 parts per million of carbon monoxide. So our firefighters backed out and they donned their SCBA and performed a primary search. The people were not at home at that time, but their alarm was working for them while they were not there. So
but when you were telling me this story, you had said that if they would have come home before, if they didn't have that alarm system in place.
That's correct.
And they came home from wherever they were at.
Yes. If they had been home or been asleep in the early morning hours, they might not have woken up, or they might not have survived. And then if they had come home and they didn't have an alarm, or if it hadn't been cleared, even if it was in a low dose, if they would have went in and laid down to take a nap, or a lot of times sleep patterns and things get thrown off during a storm like this, and any of us try to sleep when we can. And so if they hadn't had that detection system there, it could have really been bad. There could have been fatality there. So that's why we want to stress to people that read the owner's manual for your generator, place it the proper distance away from the residence or the dwelling that you're supplying power to. Make sure that you use an extension cord that's rated for that, that's a heavy enough gauge, probably a 12 gauge or 14 gauge cord, and don't overload that generator. Shut it down to refuel it. Don't leave it unattended. Many people think it's okay to go to bed at night and leave the generator running out in the backyard. They can't do that, because you don't need to leave anything man-made unattended like that. And if the wind would shift during the night, like it frequently does, now all those fumes could be coming into your home and you wouldn't be awake to realize it, and that could have a very serious or devastating effect on you and your family.
And another safety issue that we see is with the power lines that are down, and it's another reason why we urge people when the storm is over, just stay put. Don't give rescue workers, give public works crews time to clear the roads and clear the lines. You might not see the down line, and then it's too late.
Well, that's a good point, and you're exactly right. So if the power's out at your home, it's safe to assume that there are lines down somewhere. And they could be 2 or 3 miles away. They could be in your very front yard, backyard. So don't be so quick to move out and begin to clear that debris. It'll be there tomorrow and the next day. And then naturally, you know, the less people that are out or on the road, the more room that the public utility, the utility workers, law enforcement, ambulances, fire engines, we need that room on the road. So, and now naturally, if you have to go somewhere, feel free to go. But if you don't have anywhere to be or go, then give us some room on the road. We appreciate that.
And Jim, there's the property appraiser's office. You know, they were boots on the ground soon after the storm passes, when it was safe for them to get out and assess the damage on both sides of the county. So, how much damage so far are the preliminary estimates showing?
Yes, right. So far, as of now, we've got a little over 300 million in damage, but we still have a couple of more days to go. Many of the cities are doing their damage assessment and working closely with the property appraiser's office. And then our brand new emergency management app, you can actually upload your damage information to the app, and then it's directly transferred to the property appraiser. So we're over 300 million with still some time to go. But the good news also, you know, is we have to report our numbers up to the state, and then they determine the actions as far as individual assistance. We have been approved for that individual assistance and also for the Small Business Administration. So last year during Matthew, it took forever to get that individual assistance declaration. And so for us to be able to get it so quickly is good for the citizens. It's good for all of us to be able to have that off the table at this point.
And on our website, volusia.org/PIN, we have all the information that people need, the steps to take in order to register for this FEMA individual assistance. We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue our conversation here on this special Hurricane Irma edition of Volusia Magazine. Hi, I'm Joanne Magley with Volusia County Community Information with your hurricane update. As Volusia County residents recover from the hurricane, property owners are cleaning up, repairing, and rebuilding their homes. Be extra careful when hiring unknown contractors, and be especially alert for solicitors who ask for large cash deposits or advance payments in full. It's always best to hire licensed contractors. If a contractor is not licensed, you could be sued if he or she is injured on the job, and most insurance policies will not pay a claim if the homeowner has contracted with an unlicensed person. A handyman is not a licensed contractor and cannot obtain building permits. If you want to find out if an individual is properly licensed, call Volusia County Contractor Licensing at 386-736-5957 and click Option 2.
Now you're at a point where it's been deemed safe and you can move out, and you probably have your own chainsaw where you want to cut up limbs and carry them to the street and that kind of thing. Make sure you wear a hat. Make sure you put on sunblock. Wear some gloves, safety glasses. We see a lot of uptick in eye injuries from sawdust and simply just getting a limb or something that hits you in the face. Who's to say you might not have an allergy to that? So wear your PPE, your personal protective equipment, and if you are going to run a chainsaw, make sure you read the owner's manual from cover to cover. It's very critical, very important, and you need to make sure you wear the proper safety equipment with that. A long sleeve shirt and either long pants or the safety Kevlar chaps that you can purchase for very little or nothing. Make sure you have proper shoe wear. They might not necessarily have to be steel-toed boots, but you need to have something that cover your toes and protect your ankle. And this isn't light work. Make sure you stay hydrated, water, Gatorade. If you're a person that's on any type of prescription medication that might limit your ability to function, then leave that stuff alone and wait for some grandkids or a nephew to come home, and they can help you with that later.
Hi, I'm Joanne Magley with Volusia County Community Information with your hurricane update. After a storm, use precaution when returning to a flooded home. You want to make sure there is no structural damage and the building is not in danger of collapsing. Be alert for holes in the floor, loose boards, loose plaster, even wildlife like snakes. Evacuate immediately if you see a broken gas line or smell natural gas, which has the odor of rotten eggs. Don't light a match and do not activate any electrical switches or appliances until the entire electrical system has been checked. For more preparedness and safety information, visit volusia.org/emergency. Jessica, I'm going to go to you now. The beaches, the coastal parks, some of our walkovers, they received minor damage from Hurricane Irma. I'm calling it minor compared to Hurricane Matthew. So give us an overview of the cleanup effort and where things stand today with the coastal area.
Our beaches did really well. Comparing this to Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Irma was kind of a fire drill for us. We got out, we had the opportunity to begin our repairs as quickly as noon on Monday. We started clearing our beach ramps so that we could make our beach ready to accept vehicles again. Overall, we had 19 walkovers that sustained damage. This is out of over 100 walkovers that we have. One of those was completely destroyed. The other 18 we're going to be able to do in-house and get open in the next month or so. The one walkover that we did lose is Mullet Avenue in Bethune Beach. We will try to get that done during off-season for turtle nesting. So starting in November, we'll start getting the repairs on that one made. We did not suffer any significant damage at our driving ramps that are currently in service. We did have some damage to the Plaza Boulevard ramp. The tide got pretty high up there, undermined the asphalt a little bit. So that will be a reconstruction job that we'll have. Overall, the beach opened today for vehicles. We don't have the debris on the beach that we had after Matthew. Less than 72 hours, we got the beach back open to everybody. The one good thing that happened from this is Hurricane Irma hit us right before our previously scheduled International Coastal Cleanup, which was held this past Saturday.
Yeah, my boys and I were there.
Not only the beaches, but also our inland waterways. We have a lot of debris that is on our Halifax and our Indian River due to the tide surge. Also the St. John's. We are organizing the public. I believe they have over 2,500 people that showed up just to pick up the debris along our shorelines and our marine habitat areas. So Volusia County really came out and showed everybody how much we care for our beaches and our coastal environments.
So debris in the waterways was a really big issue after Matthew, and you and I were talking earlier, and we feel now it's not just necessarily on the east side that debris in the waterway will be an issue, but also on the west side due to the flooding with the St. John's River. So what resources are in effect for people to deal with this waterway debris, that, large chunks of docking and things like that?
The east side of the county experiences waterway debris quite frequently just due to the Ponce de Leon Inlet that is right there on our coastline. The west side of the county, this is kind of a new deal for them. They're not used to the St. John's River getting as high as it is. So what people may not know is that the rivers are owned and managed by the state of Florida. They're not Volusia County rivers. They are not municipal rivers. The state of Florida has a responsibility of removing any storm debris from state waters. If you happen to have a dock that is sitting out in the river behind your backyard, there's a website, maps.floridadisaster.org/debris, where residents can go in, log the information, put their address in, and then you can either do waterway category or vessel category. So waterway debris is not only just trees down blocking the waterway. This could also be remnants of a dock, plastics, and even vessels that have come off their moorings. So any sort of debris in a waterway that might become another floating danger should we have another tide rise, that will be qualified for the state removal process. The state will be taking the information entered into this website and using that to help to deploy their contractors to start the removal efforts.
All right, that's great information. So, and all the information, that website, we'll have all that information also on the county's website, volusia.org/pin. Arden, I'm going to go to you now. One of the biggest challenges after the hurricane is always debris. You know, there's debris from trees, there's debris from fences, construction, you name it. People are still cleaning up from the storm. So what do you want people to know when it comes to getting the debris where it needs to go, and then really what not to do with the debris?
So the good news is we received the federal declaration from FEMA for debris removal, and the federal government picks up 75% of that, and the state and the county will split the last 25%, or 12.5 apiece. The county maintains over 1,000 miles of roads. Most of them have been impacted. It's a huge effort to clean this up. Our road and bridge crews will be augmenting a contractor that comes in to help us. We're going to ask residents to be patient. It's going to take a little while. Debris contractors are strained with the Hurricane Harvey response in Texas and then the statewide impacts from Irma. So we ask residents to bring debris down to the curb, down to the edge of the public road right away. And the big thing is separation. You don't want to separate your vegetative debris. Please don't put anything in yard bags.
Right.
Then you have your construction debris, which is mattresses, sheetrock, anything like that will go out on the roadway. Included in that is fences. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's vegetative debris, but it actually goes in the construction debris pile.
It's good to know.
And then you have your white goods, you know, refrigerators, washer, dryer, and finally electronics, TVs and computers. So we just ask you residents to keep them all well separated out there at the edge of the roadway, and then keep your normal garbage collection separate from all of that.
Right.
I know it's a lot of separation, but it really helps expedite the process.
And we're telling people also, make sure you keep the debris, you know, keep it out of the road, don't block fire hydrants, don't block sidewalks.
Absolutely, that's a good point. We ask you to keep, if debris is placed into the roadway, it can cause site obstructions, it can hinder emergency vehicles, you know, it can cause hazard. So we also ask residents to keep it away from fire hydrants, from inlets.
Arden, what else with debris that you want people to know about?
One big thing is with the contractors. If you hire a contractor to remove trees from your property, they're required by law to take that debris and bring it to the appropriate facility. They shouldn't be placing it on the edge of the right-of-way. They're supposed to remove it. Same goes for any kind of contractor doing interior house work. That debris also needs to go to the proper facility. Right,
they're required to take it away with them. And another thing we want to mention to people is make sure they're using licensed contractors. And on our website, again, volusia.org/pin, we have a section on how to make sure you have a licensed contractor. You're never supposed to put money down before they do the work. And there's a, you know, unfortunately, during disasters, people sometimes come out and they're not quite as honest as they should be. So again, all this debris information will be on our website. So we have a few minutes left, and I'd like to go down our row of experts for some final words regarding Hurricane Irma. So Jim, let's start with you.
You bet. Just some additional conditions on the St. Johns River. Of course, the last few days it has been at flood stage. It's beginning to taper off. But we're asking everyone, you know, if you can't stay off the river for now, if you are on the river, you decide to go out, it is an idle zone all along, not only Volusia County, but even down into Seminole County. There could be submerged debris, there could be debris in the waterway, so you're taking a risk of damaging your boat anyway. We have a lot of flooding on the Lake County side, also on the Volusia County side, so even the slightest bit of wake, you could further damage those homes or even damage homes that may be just above the water level. So stay off of St. John's. If you do get on there, it's an idle zone only.
Okay. Chief?
We just want to remind everyone in the aftermath of any emergency in the cleanup, especially when it comes to generator use, that carbon monoxide is a silent killer. So if you run a generator and you immediately begin to feel dizzy, nauseous, you're just not feeling good, you're probably getting carbon monoxide poisoning. So we encourage you to move to a ventilated area, shut the unit down, let it cool off for a little bit, move it to another location, and basically start over and try again. But don't be cross-ventilated with carbon monoxide, and just look at each situation carefully. Don't be overwhelmed, and just use some common sense.
Okay, Jessica.
We are still recovering from Hurricane Matthew on the beach. We have not stopped efforts to repair the 1 beach ramp and the 21 walkovers. We have been working diligently with the Department of Environmental Protection at the state to try and keep A1A open. A1A held during Irma. This is a big deal. The state came in immediately before the storm and dumped 500 truckloads of sand along the edge of A1A in Ormond by the Sea. It is for that reason that the state road held during the storm. The state is continuing to drop additional sand in hopes of preparation for the swell that's coming from Jose. We need to be mindful that we are not out of hurricane season yet, and I know it's very enticing to go to the beach. I know the waves are wonderful, but please do not use sand pass in Ormond by the Sea to get to the beach. You will only be compromising the integrity of the sand that we placed pre-storm to protect the road. Please use designated public dune walkovers.
Okay. Arden, any final thoughts?
We just ask residents to be patient. We will collect the debris. There's just a lot of strict requirements that FEMA has in getting the debris contractors on site, and then just separation of the debris, the vegetative debris, the C&D, your white goods, and your electronics.
All right, I want to thank all of our guests today on Volusia Magazine: Jim Judge, Emergency Management Director; Chief Noble Taylor with Fire Services; Jessica Winterwerp with Coastal; and Arden Fontaine with Public Works. I want to remind everybody that we have a citizen information line that is still open. This is a phone bank for any questions or comments or anybody that needs assistance. They can call 866-345-0345. There's also comprehensive information on the county's website that we've been mentioning, volusia.org/PIN, and we've been also updating the county's emergency management Facebook page at Emergency Management, and also on Twitter. Volusia.org/PIN again is the website. So for this special edition, special Hurricane Irma edition of Volusia Magazine, I'm Joanne Magley.